Hello, and welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. Last week, I shared with you that I'm planning to take some drastic action, and I told you I would be sharing it with you in an upcoming video. Well, this is that video. Let me just say this. As recently as 5 years ago, if you had told me that I would even consider taking this action, I would have told you you're crazy, that never would I do that. But you know what? Things have changed so rapidly around me that I now find it necessary to take this action to possibly protect myself and my child. What is that action? Well, come on, and I will tell you exactly what it is. Before I tell you exactly what I'm going to do, let me share with you some of the reasons. I am 72 years old. When I grew up in an era where kids could get on their bikes and you could ride all day, all over Kingdom Come. We didn't have cell phones or GPS apps where your parents could track your movements all day long, because parents didn't worry about you. As long as we were home before the street lights came on, everything was cool. They didn't worry about someone trafficking you or taking you or kidnapping you. Those weren't concerns. When I went to school, I felt safe. We had drills, but the drills were for fire drills, how to get out of the building safely. Or in California, how to dodge under or duck under a table or a desk in case there was an earthquake. But now kids have drills how to stay safe if someone comes there trying to take your life, if there's an active shooter. There was a sense of community. You didn't just know your next door neighbor, you knew the neighbors down the street. If as a kid we were walking home and engaging in some form of mischief, before we even got home, a neighbor had called home to report it to my parents, and we had something waiting for us when we got home. Now, you don't even know your next door neighbor's name, much less who their kids are. If something happened in those days where you were sick or in the hospital, neighbors were bringing over a casserole or calling and checking on you, seeing if you needed a ride somewhere. Again, you don't even know your neighbors now. We didn't know who our neighbors voted for. We could care less. And it certainly was not some form of litmus test determining whether they would stay friends or whether family members would be invited to holiday dinners or we would even talk to them anymore. We did not care. Gradually, over the last 10 years or so, I've watched with increasing alarm as this country that I love so much has and continues to morph into something I don't even recognize in certain areas as the country of my youth. There is a level of divisiveness in this country I would not have thought possible. People are encouraged to not only ridicule, but have disdain for people who have different points of view, to actually consider them enemies that should be destroyed. And one of the most disheartening things about this whole thing is that many of those who are the most vicious call themselves Christians. I don't care what side of the divide you are. Harboring hatred for someone because they have a different opinion of you, viewing them as less than human or someone who should be destroyed, that is not what a Christian should be. That is not reflective of a Christian characteristic or a Christian attribute. I don't care what your personal political beliefs are. As a senior, I see an overall prevailing lack of respect for older people. And as a Black American, I see an alarming rise in racist rhetoric. I see a disdain by many for those they view as less than, as evidenced by the fact that an individual on a national news program felt comfortable saying that homeless people should be unalived, like they were some animal at a shelter. So, what am I going to do about all of this and my sadness and concern about it? Well, I've decided, along with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or even millions of other citizens and an increasing number of seniors, that I am going to explore the possibility and the option of gaining permanent residency in a foreign country. In recent weeks, I've seen a callousness that even in this current climate surprised me, and that is a willingness to let vulnerable people, including children, go without food. I also see the handwriting on the wall for seniors like myself. I know some of you are going to say, oh, you're just, fear-mongering, like you said when I told you that food stamps were going to end for November 1st. Well, what I'm now saying and seeing is that Medicare is going to change, and it's going to change drastically, in my opinion. PPO plans are being dropped like you would not believe. I'm going to do a video sharing some of that. But the plan is, I believe, to eventually not only privatize Medicare, but also make it consistent with Medicare Advantage, where we're all under HMOs, have to scramble to get things approved, increased prices for all of us. The handwriting is on the wall, folks. Just look around you and see the signs. I also see where more and more people are going to be homeless because many of the programs that subsidize housing, not just Section 8, but other programs also through HUD, I think are going to be cut. Additionally, if you pay attention to what is happening with Social Security disability, there's a move afoot to change the requirements and guidelines so that many that are currently considered disabled, not only veterans, but others also, will have those disabilities disallowed, so many will be knocked off the Social Security disability rolls. I think that's inevitable based on what I see. And others who would have been eligible will no longer be eligible. As a result, more and more people are going to be homeless. I mean, what I see coming up ahead is not pretty. And based on the figures of people who are currently seeking from the United States permanent residency in other countries, pretty soon those countries are going to either be closing their doors or making it much more difficult to gain that residency, increasing your entry level from, in some countries, $1,000 a month income to maybe $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, or maybe making you have to invest a couple $100,000 into their country. I think those changes are coming, and I'd like to get in under the wire before that happens so I can have an option. Let me give you some figures to support what I'm saying. A Talker research poll, I think it was released in February 2025, found that 17% of the U.S. citizens, I guess the ones that they polled is my guess, are considering moving abroad within the next 5 years. 5% said they will move soon, or I'm guessing sooner, and 2% already have plans in place. In other words, they've already enacted their plan and their move is imminent. A Harris poll published in 2025 reported that 4 in 10 Americans have at least thought about leaving. And Americans leaving the country to live abroad in the first quarter of 2025 rose by 102% over the last quarter of 2024. Based on my research, one report stated or noted that of the 5.5 million U.S. citizens currently living abroad, 1.25 million are retired. And in 2024 to 2025, 62% of U.S. citizens relocating abroad are retirees. Among the reasons that were given for people leaving were safety. They felt unsafe here. Also, parents were afraid for their kids being in school here. Seniors felt unsafe and felt there was a sense of divisiveness and hostility in the air, potential political unrest. Also, the cost of living. It used to be that on one income, even a modest income, you could buy a home, because homes were maybe 2.5 to 3 times your annual income. Now homes are 8 to 10 times your annual income. Based on one report that I read, food last year went up 34%. I don't know of anyone who got a 34% increase in their retirement pension or their earnings if they're still working. Also, the cost of medication and medical care, and the difficulty getting quality Medicare or rather medical coverage if you're a senior, especially if you're a low-income senior. Another reason given, particularly for seniors, was a sense of increasing isolation and a lack of community, and a desire to move somewhere where there were family values and where people looked after each other, cared about each other, and there was a sense of community, and they could be a part of a community again. And I can understand that. I really relate to that. I have developed an online community that's just beautiful and wonderful. But there's nothing that compares with having people close to you that check on you and come by and are available should something happen or you be in need. So for all the reasons that I've given you, I am going to be seeking to obtain a permanent residency in another country. That doesn't mean I'm going to live there full time. I'm going to seek that somewhere where I can perhaps stay there part of the year and still be in America part of the year. But I'm feeling more and more that I'm going to be needing a break, a periodic break from the tension and divisiveness here. And I'm going to be visiting this country and taking steps through an attorney to gain permanent residency for myself and my daughter. Now, for those of you who might say, well, you're anti-American or you don't care about America, baloney. I come from a generational military family, and let me tell you something. No family cares more about this country than we do. My dad served during World War II, Korea, and was on a PT boat in Vietnam during the conflict there. Now, of course, my dad was the one that made most of the sacrifices, but I'll tell you something. We kids, me and my brothers, we also made sacrifices. We were without a father present in our home for the majority of our growing up years because he was stationed away. So we have made sacrifices for this country, not the ultimate sacrifices that those that served did, but we have made sacrifices, and we care, and I care about this country. But the handwriting is on the wall, and I have a duty and an obligation to protect my daughter and to take steps that, if necessary, will provide a backup plan for us if that comes to be something we need. For now, I'm seeking permanent residency, or going to seek permanent residency, and just have an option to go back and forth. And when things get so tense here, to go somewhere where it's milder, calmer, the atmosphere is more conducive to my mental health. You know, I've noticed that recently I seem to be losing part of myself. And what I mean by that is my sense of optimism. You know, I have always been a person that looks at something that's difficult and says, okay, that's not impossible. I can figure out a way. But I found that I'm losing that. And I'm going out. When I go out, I'm having a sense of tension. You know, people are on edge. I find that even if I go into a movie theater, if someone walks in the middle of the movie, I'm checking them out to see, you know, do they have something under their jacket or something? I mean, crazy. I mean, just, you know, but reflective of the times. And I think I need some periodic time out from that, from when I get on a plane, checking everyone out who's walking onto the plane to see if they are planning something. I just need a break from the tension from time to time. And this is how I'm choosing to do it. I'm still looking to do my tiny house community, still involved in projects here in the United States, and plan to continue to be. But I'm setting it up so I can take breaks when I need mental health breaks from everything going on here. If you have considered this or are considering at least staying part-time in another country, let me know in the comments. But keep your comments appropriate, please. I don't want to have to block anyone. And just let me know what you think of what I've said. And do you feel an, overwhelming sense of tension in the air, of hostility, of anger? Even when you get out and you're driving about, are people, more angry on their horns for the slightest little pause that you might make at a stoplight? Let me know. And don't forget to tune in on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern for Glow Live, where we talk about this and so many other things. And just have a time to, let our hair down and chat about whatever's on our mind. I will see you. I have great videos coming up this week. Some on the shutdown, some on other things that I think are pertinent, and maybe even a cooking video or two. Meanwhile, I'll see you next time. I love each and every one of you, and may your journeys be filled with joy and blessings. Till next time.